I think it's time, and I might take this segment because there's going to be some things that we bring up in the music component of this, and also just upload this in its separate way. But let's talk about, if you don't mind, let's shift gears to your new book. I do want to let people know that, and we're talking central casting, I just went to see Pearl Jam the other night. Now, the one thing that I didn't, when I got the tickets, I didn't know the Harrison Butker slam was going to come up. Honestly, the show made me feel very uncomfortable. Eddie Vedder threw in an anti-Trump rant. There was many people in Seattle that were cheering, and I'm just sitting there like, are these people ever going to wake up? He talked about, there's this song called Satan's Bed, and he said he felt a little uncomfortable talking about it because there was satanic panic. And then a lot of the lighting was that weird satanic green. And I don't know, I've never felt, and I'd love your insight on this, Derek. We're watching a band that they're remarkable. Eddie's an amazing singer. The songs are phenomenal. But what cheapens it, it's like being out to dinner with all your friends, and then you're watching someone outside get attacked. And it was so conflicting, because part of me wanted to just get up and leave. And then part of me felt like a mole. I just thought, oh my gosh, I got to talk about this on the show. And it's so conflicting now to watch some of these bands. And we have a regular guy that watches our show, Vegas 1968. And he said that he was with 6 couples that weren't even awake, and they didn't even think that was Bono anymore down at the shows in Vegas. So I don't know, man. It's very conflicting to be listening to music that you love, but then there's this propaganda and agenda. And I saw it on the Peter Gabriel tour as well. So any insight would be appreciated. We can go into your book as well. But I had to get that out.
Notice Tree Huggers for Trump said burn some sage.
Yeah.
That was a great comment.
It is time to burn some sage. So please go ahead.
Well, it goes back to, it depends on what they were doing with their platforms they've had, right? And we know this. We know that Taylor Swift went woke. We know that Garth Brooks went woke. And we're talking about massive, they're known all over the world, right? And then you saw them use Garth at the quote unquote fake inauguration, which wasn't an inauguration at all. So when you look at certain people, it's going to depend on what they were doing, because that's what I've explained. I did a 4-hour. I didn't mean to go 4 hours last night, but I did, because I was like, what the heck, and I went 4 hours on my music page, because I'm going after all the publications, all of them. They're all part of it. They've all condoned it at some level, because when you're on the biggest level, there's nothing past Billboard country airplay in country music. It's the top chart. There's nothing past it. Once you've been there, there's nothing for me to go to. You can only digress from there. I'm not knocking all the other charts, but you can only digress. That's it. It's like winning a Grammy. Once you win a Grammy, there's nothing else. That's like the pinnacle. So it goes back to, not all singers are bad. I don't know everybody myself, even in country music. I know a lot of them. I know the ones that slept their way to the top. I know the ones that, like Kid Rock said, they sucked a lot of what, and I hate it. That's what he said. You got to be grotesque a little bit, just to paint the pictures of, what goes on back there. Power, control, money. And everybody jumped in bed together. All of them. Look at our automobiles. Look at our dealers. Look at our vehicles now. They have what? You have Exium. You have certain subscriptions, right? There's no more CD players, like for you to put in what you want to listen to, right? Unless you put in one that you can go to an old school audio store and get one put in, if it'll even fit your console anymore. The vehicles now don't even have the consoles hardly. They have to have even adapters to put in for that. Everybody jumped in bed together. The streaming platforms have gutted country music. It's gutted all the music industry. It's gutted the songwriters. All right. And the songwriters were already undervalued and unappreciated, but especially in country music, where it was predominantly 99% of all the artists all the way back till the 80s have been all written by a songwriter, not the artist. There was a few, but not as many. And if you think of artistry, well, it seems like you'd want to push the one who is writing it, producing it, like the rock bands of the 60s and 70s. Those guys were brilliant because they were writing all their music. They were composing the music, the melody, and the lyrics together, and it was great, right? So you gotta, it's like when you put all that together, then you go, okay, when they get that big, depends on what their motives and their intent were. And we do know a lot of them that have gone woke. They've said that, they've done that. I also think some of this right now, where we are, because it is an occupation, because it is not continuity of operations, I think that there may be some play on out there, not the satanic part. That part right there is where you cross the line. That's where when you start talking Satan, satanic rituals, you start having the heavy red and black in the background. That's when you're crossing a massive line to me. But then again, Dr. Jan Halper Hayes is someone that I quote a lot, and she had followed me from the get-go, but works for the DOD, and she's verified to people that's what that her role is to test the climate of what people are accepting from the laws and the orders. And they're also watching podcasters. They're watching what podcasters are doing. So podcasters are not exempt either. If they're putting out stuff that's misleading people, they could be punished depending on the level, right? So artists out there, I do think that some artists are a part of it. Jason Aldean, I think, is very much a part of the good thing, because when the shooting happened in Vegas, I honestly don't believe he realized what was going on. And then he first briefly, real quick, within a first week or so, he put out that there should be gun control. After that, it was that quick. His butt was sitting down there with President Trump. And the next thing you know, he was putting out pro-Trump, pro-everything, pictures with President Trump, playing golf with President Trump. So, there are some out there that get bigger. Here's our Southern saying again. Here's one of our Alabama sayings. They get bigger than their britches, right? They get a little bigger than their britches. Well, some of these weren't in politics, and they weren't reading. They don't know. They've just been blessed. The fans have blessed them. The fans have bought their content. The fans have bought their merchandise, especially in the old school, before it was all this bullcrap streaming services and all the stuff it's gone to. The old school were old school money, right? And they've been blessed to be where they are. But not all of them knew what the heck was going on with laws and order, especially military. All right. So a lot of them, I've never been the kind that's been against any kind of celebrity showing their freedom of speech, because they have it just as well. You do have to be careful with your platform for what you stand for and what you're pushing, because if you don't know what's going on behind the scene and you're all of a sudden saying something and then you turn around, you could lose your whole base because of what you were pushing. I think most people that know what's like with me, even though I wasn't a massive top 20 artist, which is where they control the market. But I think because when people can tangibly go look up what I'm saying, then they can put their morals and their decency to that and decide on their own. Well, at least what I'm saying is stuff that's written. It's not an opinion from the standpoint of, well, I came up with it. I made all this up. This is what I came up with. I wrote all this. I passed all that. It's not that. So you got to be careful with those. So I don't know about them, and it'll depend on, but when you get to the satanic part, I think that's when it's starting to show that they're letting a lot of these who they probably never committed a crime in their life. Let's just be honest. They haven't committed a crime that would be deemable for them to be pulled in from that manner. Maybe a crimes against humanity, or maybe trafficking. Maybe they're just someone who's a liberal. They're a metalhead. They just want to smoke pot and just have, and don't have a clue what's going on. And then they let people will ultimately decide, because if it were me, if I didn't know that to begin with and I'm sitting there and I heard that, well, I go, well, I'm not ever going back to a Pearl Jam concert because of that. Same thing with Walmart. Walmart recently went woke. So, don't go to Walmart. That's what I tell people. It's like NFL. During the whole NFL kneel downs, I never gave them ratings. Did I want to watch football? Yes, I love football. But did I watch it? No, because the principle. I didn't contribute to the ratings. As much as I love the game, well, the game don't love me back. All right. And that's the way I look at that. And Pearl Jam and all these, that's what I've been exposed in the country music industry. Like last night, I was on my podcast for 4 hours almost. How many top 20 artists in all genres, but especially even country, how many are getting on their pages and talking to you, even not about politics, but just saying, hey, what about my new album? You know, what about this? And then looking at the comments and going, hey, you know, hey, Susie, hey, Rhonda, hey, Joe, hey, you know, Matt, hey, Johnny. How many are doing that? They're not. They don't care about you. All right. And I know a lot of them. And I know what they did to get there. And I just wasn't willing to do that myself. But the labels also knew I knew too much. It wasn't so much that they thought I would be amenable and controllable. I was sitting there on their chart without the label. So they're like, they knew I knew all the alternative routes. And then my team were old school guys who were pissed because all these new age weren't standing up for the etiquette, the protocol, the standards, the integrity, the history of country music, because it is a privilege to get to do this for a living, right? For all the right reasons, if you're doing it for the right reasons. But they were mad because all the industry people on the business side had not stood up to it. And so they, along with certain people in radio, gave me a record that when people read it in a book, I mean, you're talking about peanuts. It's peanuts compared to what it normally will be. And I don't want to reveal everything like that. People read, but I show everything from top to bottom. I mean, from the top to the bottom. I show it just like this. I always take the pen, and I go from pen to the paper, from paper to the publisher, publisher to the plugger, from the plugger to the producer, from the producer to the artist, from the artist to the label, from the label to country radio, program directors. Those coincide. And then them to playlists to your ears to the stage. Anybody who says, I knew that song was going to be a hit song when I heard it first, it was already a hit song because it went through a process to get to you. It was already a hit. That is the format, right? And then the game that's being played over there where it goes on the chart are your labels and your radio people. And anybody who says they don't listen well, I don't listen to radio anymore, it doesn't matter. That's the system they're using before it gets to your Spotify playlist. That's the system they use. And it's dirty, bad. And if they'll screw me over with the resume I have, I've worked with hit artists, hit producers, hit songwriters, and former major record label executives myself. If they'll screw me over, it's it. Anybody that don't have next to my resume anything, unless you're amenable and controllable. That's why a lot of artists are getting arrested right now. They want out. They really want out of the system. They want out of the conundrum. So a lot of them are getting arrested because they want out. And that's sad. It really is. I know artists, when they lost their record deal, guess what happened? Their houses were seized. Anything that they owed on, take him back. All right.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up because I interviewed a gentleman named E. Smitty, and he runs Sound Alive Records, and really great guy, patriot. And he actually called me this morning talking about how important the gentleman that you mentioned and did an interview with, Nick Ragone. Ragone, is that how you say his last name? Ragone? How
Ragone.
important Nick is. And, you know, Smitty's looking to do, it's called Distro Mint, and it's a way for artists to get their music on Spotify and Apple and all of that. I use them for my music as well, but I just think it's really important that we talk about what are the alternatives. So with you, like when you put your music out, I mean, Smitty offers a platform where it's world distribution. And so, you know, like when people read your book, and I'm excited to read it, once they put out their music and get world distribution, what do you recommend people do? And I can't wait for you to talk to Smitty and possibly Nick Ragone as well. But how do people navigate that? You know, what's your suggestion on that?
Well, in one way, it's really easy. and it always is this. You go back to the basics, right? You go back to the principles. We all say, everybody that's listening, I've heard it from every walk of life, that music is universal. Music's the one thing that brings us all together, right? Now, you might not like my style. I might not like your style, but somebody will. Somebody will love it. And that still depends on the ears that are listening. Now, I do agree that we need to have levels. Absolutely. When you listen to George Strait songs, they were all written by massive hit songwriters that they didn't write. It was rare that they wrote them in their 20s or 30s. But some of them were. But a lot of that was wisdom. A lot of that was just pure talent, writing the songs. Well, you know, I always say anybody signed before 1990 gets a hall pass, because the Billboard changed and country music changed in 1990, then it changed again in 2012. The first things first, for fans have to be educated. It's just like anything else. They must be educated on why they think they love what they love right now. Everybody who tells me country radio don't matter anymore, anytime I've heard that comment from a fan, the only person they can name is a top 20 artist. So I'm like, you're naming a top 20 artist because of the system that I've already been through. And the system suppresses any unsigned artist on Billboard. So Billboard has 60 slots, 1 through 60. Up till, I don't know, they just changed it recently. It had to be within the last 6 months, but Billboard.com was putting out the top 20. They published the top 20 for the last, I don't know how long. Now you got to have subscription to see number 2 to number 60, which is, they're doing something. They're working on something. And maybe they're working on something better. But all unsigned artists, there's 2 portions of Billboard radio or country radio. There's top 30, there's top 60. If George Strait, I'll pick on George because most people know George Strait. If George Strait's new song does not hit top 30, it don't get played on top 30, which is where most of your mainstream country music fans, they only know. All right. So you have to have, and how that process works is all money based. It's all politics, though. It's not just money either. It's a lot of politics with the people who are in radio. And who's letting those songs be put on radio and how many times they're being spun on radio. Now it's a double, triple formula almost. It's a double formula. Well, that's a lot of politics. Well, the labels, the major record labels, they don't want to be exposed. So when you have guys like me and teams like mine who are former major record label guys that know how to navigate that system, and you have to be, in layman's terms, licensed or qualified to be a Billboard promoter. You have to have certain credentials to be a Billboard promoter. You can't just pick up one day and go, you know what? I know all the Billboard stations. You can't do it. It's a system. So you got 1 through 60. Everybody from number 31 to number 60, if you're unsigned, there's no way to get in top 30. There's no way, because they don't want people to know. Like if I would have slipped through top 30, oh boy, would I really had the ammo for sure then, because I would have been able to be in a top 30 countdown, and you get a plaque for that. So that's where they see you get around number 35. That's when they put out 5 or 6 or 7 singles, all the labels of new singles. That's why they push content. So when they push those new singles, it pushes everybody back. And then you just spent all that time in politics getting there. Then you get pushed back. Then you got to do what again? Money and politics again. And you can't ever eclipse that top 30. Now, I know one who's done it. It was on my team. No one knows who she is. Stephanie Quayle. All right. She got in the top 20. She got in the top 30. She got in the 20s. But no one knows her, because the time that someone's driving down the highway on that time slot that she was on that heard her was not enough for the one song. You'd have to come back with multiple times, right? Multiple. And it's just not that way. XM the Highway, all your top streamers, all your top playlists on Spotify, they're another promotion. They're another $500,000 promotion alone, separate from your others. right? So there's so much politics in that because why? There's only 30 slots on the XM, right? They only play top 30. So in order to get that, to be that artist that gets in the top 30 on there is a whole other promotion stand. And that's where fans have to realize that you do not have any control over the artists that you love and like. And I hate that I do it. I've already called out two of them, Morgan Wallen and Luke Combs, because they're the most popular right now. All right. I can write circles around both of them. All right. First off, I know that for fact because I know who the rooms they're in with. I know what writers they're in with. They're in with great hit writers that's supposed to be great. All right. I've proven myself by myself as a songwriter. I don't need hit songwriters. I love writing with hit songwriters that I've developed relationships with because we get great songs. But if you need any more than 4, especially any more than 3 writers on a song, is it really writing? Are you really writing a song? If it takes 3 people or more, right? So when you educate the fans that the only artists they know are through this system of top 20, it was crammed down your throat. You were told to like it. You were told to like it. You were told to love it. You didn't discover it on your own. That takes the power out of your hands. They're telling you what you're going to like. They're telling you what concerts you're going to go to. They're telling you. So I say this. I've told the formula is really simple. You got to subscribe to Billboard, which don't benefit me. It's not going to benefit me as an artist anymore. What I'm going to do is produce artists. I've told every mom and dad out there, you don't want to send your daughter up there to that conundrum. I promise you that, especially the daughters, because males have it differently in a male-driven market. It's a male-driven business market. All right, so females have it different. All right, you want someone who has name recognition, who's been there, done that, can put the same level of quality production and quality songs on a record for country music, that is. Rock and some of your other genres are a little different, but with country, there has to be a finite formula process. How the fans flip it is you go subscribe to Billboard. You go find every unsigned artist on the Billboard and start streaming their music, start commenting on their posts, start downloading, start buying their merchandise. That will flip all the algorithms. You got to flip that. You got to flip that on the labels. You got to go after the ones that aren't on their labels and then flip those algorithms. Just like when Morgan Wallen says the N-word, right? Well, guess what? Pandemonium all over the internet. Well, everybody who was commenting, even if it was negative comments, guess what it was still doing? Making that what? Show up in every news feed all over Facebook. So then they waited a little while, quote unquote, and then he came out with an apology. Well, guess what that did? That earned a lot more followers too. And he laughs all the way to the bank, right? He don't care that he said the N-word slangly. He don't care about you out there, right? And I have nothing. I don't know him. The only thing I have against Morgan Wallen is when he first came out, he looked like Martina McBride, all right? He looked like got a man bun with a wife beater and Timberland boots, and then looking like Martina McBride. And then, next thing you know, he's got a mullet, he's got a mustache, he's got on a blue jean shirt and blue jeans. And then all the Southern girls, oh, well, do you love the man bun, Martina McBride? Or do you love Hillbilly Richard, who works down at the Dollar General? Which one is it? I mean, that's what baffles me. When you have true artists out there, now you don't have to like me. Like I tell people, you don't have to like me or my style or my music. But when you have true artists who have always been true to themselves, they're either a cowboy like me and grew up on a cattle ranch and things like, or whatever. When you have someone who's been true the whole time, who write, especially if they write their own music, why wouldn't you want to support the authenticity versus someone who has an identity crisis? Now, I don't mean he's a bad person. It doesn't mean he's a bad guy. It doesn't mean that. But why not support something from the start? George Strait. I have a picture of George Strait from when he was like 28 and right now. And it's just about the same jacket and the same hat. He's never changed. Yep. That's what makes you consistent. That's what makes you authentic. That's what makes you genuine. So that's the stuff. So fans have to be educated. They have to know why they like what they like, especially in country music right now, because it works on a country has a real hardcore system, and pop does. Rock's been a little bit different. You can go in and rock bands can record, especially if you're a grunge band or if you're emo or things like that. You can be more of yourself. It's not so much of session musicians and it's going to be on a chart and it's going to be this like that. But in country music, that's how it operates. And in order to flip that, people have to know how it operates. And then they got to want to do what? They got to want to contribute and support authenticity. And that's what I say is that what I did in my book. I said, I got a formula. I got a process. I said, look, I got people who will back it. I got people who will fund it. They won't have to pay a thing. And when I know people hear stuff, they've been so used to the gimmick world. They've been so used to the, subscribe here and you get this, that. It ain't like that. What I'm doing, I'm the first country music artist in country music history and Billboard to unleash all the secrets that you can't Google. Other artists should have done it before, but I can tip my hat to the guys that have top 20s in an integrity way and say, well, they're not going to bite the hand that fed them. And if all of a sudden they came after a system that gave them this lush, plush life, it's a lot better for me to do it because I didn't reach the top 20, but I was in the top 60 of the whole thing, right? I'm on the last chart, the end chart. So there were some guys that could have burned down the system before. Ricky Van Shelton was a prime example. Ricky Van Shelton had a lot of #1 hits. And his label, when they dropped him, they just dropped him like that. They quit pushing him. And he was a great guy. He's been married to the same his wife. He's been married all these years. He's just authenticity. He is genuine. He's the real deal. He's a songwriter as well. They dropped him like that. And when he quit, he walked away. He never looked back. He's never toured. I reached out to him in 2011, and for a songwriter that I was representing, a big hit songwriter, and he said, Derek, man, I love Dave Gibson, but if I come back for one, everybody will want, and I can't. And I have to give a man credit for that. He completely walked away from something he loved the most and never looked back. And it's unfortunate because Ricky Van Shelton has so many great songs and he's a great guy. And there was a lot of artists that just either walked away, or there's some that's tried to stay relevant thinking they were going to have a comeback and it never happened. And then their popularity passed them for them to have the big voice to do that. So, it's unfortunate, but that's where we are. And I know it sucks that it's in a book. I mean, I know people, but it's so hard to really, it's a lot easier to put it in a book and type it because it took me a while to type it. This is the one that took me longer than the Midnight Rider because I'm like, okay, how do you explain this in layman's terms, but yet where it makes sense? How do you call to action on it? How do you take part and then break it down and then also show the visuals? And thank God, look at what happened with me. What are the odds? I've heard people in the comment box and negativity, the haters and all that. I can't Google. I can't find your billboards on Billboard. I can't find your hits. Hey, that's why they only publish top 20 for all these years, right? Well, Think of all my buddies. Look at what happened to me. Lo and behold, one of my buddies, hit songwriter and hit producer, produces Sammy Kershaw. What are the odds that Sammy Kershaw was the oldest country music singer to chart a hit song way back here in 2020? What are the odds that he charted? All right. Well, he put the chart up on his page, and I was able, and I have it video screen going. I do it I open the Facebook app. I type in his name. I video all of it all the way down. I find the scroll through all the pictures, and I show that video process, click on the chart, zoom in on me. He and I are side by side. Look at all of the artists, unsigned artists who have been on Billboard, whose family and friends do not believe them. Maybe if let's say they have resistance like I've had, Look at all the ones that cannot show their family and friends that they were on the biggest chart in country music. And look at what God allowed happen to me, that Sammy Kershaw happened to post the chart when he was in. He said, well, I may not be in the top whatever, but I'm on the chart with a bullet. Well, there I was right next to him, literally right next to him. And so I was able to, that's what I put in the book, because Sammy Kershaw, 90s artist, great artist, one of my honky-tonk heroes, as the saying is. What are the odds that God allowed that to happen for me to have the ammo to show people? Because if you're about music, if you're about songwriting, if you're about artistry, then if a song speaks to you, it don't matter who's singing it. If it's a great song, if you like it, you should put it on your playlist and jam to it.
Yeah, well, I agree. I had a question for you on that. We had an amazing gentleman on our show, Dr. David Martin, and his video at Parliament from 2023, actually about a year ago, has been seen by over 4 billion people. And the reason I bring it up is, have you thought of doing audio recordings or Audible of your work? Because this is one thing he brought up at the end of that interview, and I do suggest anybody who is in the fight for humanity and wants to learn about humanity to watch our interview with Dr. David Martin. But even the Bible, the first book that came out after the printing press was created, the Bible was manipulated. And we are not, in nature, there's nothing that's black on white. And when you read black words on a white page, it actually is, it kind of messes with your mind, and it can make you tired. It doesn't allow you to absorb information in the best way. And so I don't know what the solution to that is, actually, now that I'm mentioning that, Scott. But have you narrated your books yet, or is that something that you might do down the road? Obviously, someone would need some visual aid, but I mean, I love to listen to books. Is that something that you might do?
Yeah, we've talked about that, definitely so, because we've all had the jokes about, do they want to hear a Southern boy talking, right, and narrating his own book, or do we need someone a lot more eloquent like you to maybe did you just make a pitch to me? Do you want to do that yourself? I mean, I don't know, but
No, well, I
know. Yeah,
I think people want to hear
we've
your book from you, actually, but
well, I have friends that make me pull out my phone and read a rap song off because they just want to hear a Southern boy do, like want to be a baller, shot caller, 20-inch blades on the Impala. Caller, get you know what tonight, switch the roll tight, get sprayed with ice. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. I do know what that means, but I'm like, I don't know what that means. Right. And I'm like, I'm like a Diamond Rottweiler, R10 Holla, never need another. I'm like, what does this mean? Right. But people love to hear me do that. So yeah, we've had that conversation about different languages. And so, yeah, we've talked about that. So that would be cool. I don't even know how to go about an audio book as far as like the actual program, but I know that's probably an easy find for someone to do.
I'm sure we could point you in the right direction. I just want to. This is breaking news. Trump was just found guilty on all 34 counts.
Wow.
This is the beauty of Alive and our audience interacting, because obviously I can't be doing what I'm doing and watch awesome. That. So this is what's coming in. Thank you, John Osborne. Here, let me just put up John's message right there. So I'm not sure what this means or where this is going.
Baby.
What? Go ahead.
Yeah, let's go, baby. Heck yeah, let's go.
That's the reaction.
T-shirt sales are going to go.
That's what we want. That's what.
Well, beautiful. Well, I think I just want to say thank you, Derek. Thank you for reposting our show on X. I mean, my people may not know who the heck we are that they're watching this. Some do. I'm Joe. This is Scott. We both have Airstreams. Mine's over there. This is Scott's. It's a 1969 Airstream Sovereign. So he lives in a beautiful work of art. My background is, nightclubs, music, film. Scott and I have made a film together called A Perfect Life. I acted in it and Scott shot it. and that's on our link tree. And so is my music. And I'm actually working with Lewis Herms on a song called "To Unite." He commissioned me to write that song, and it's about unity, because there is a lot of infighting, and we just, our show is about unity and looking at the best of humanity, and having guests on such as you, Dr. David Martin, and tomorrow on the 31st of May, on the last day of May, we got SG on for the first time with Nick and Dylan from the Bridge podcast, and that's going to be at 5 p.m. Pacific. So guys, please follow us on X, share our work like I've been posting behind the scenes here. This is the 10th Twitter account that I've been a part of. We just lost our TikTok. My music video Freedom Now, which I'm redoing for 2024, has brought down 3 different YouTube channels. So the censorship is real. Anything you want to say, Scott?
Yeah, if there's the chat will go away after the live. If there's any comments that you want to stick around and remain underneath this interview, go to the comments section for that. And we welcome your comments, and we read them and we love them. So thanks for your participation.
Absolutely. And Derek, one last time where people can find you on a different variety of ways. Obviously there's your music site, there's the documents. So give them a little bit of insight on where they can find the different parts of what you do to share your beautiful mind. Please go ahead.
Well, first off, on the next show, I'll pick on Scott the whole time. So I picked on you the whole time. So next show, I'll pick on Scott. And then that way we'll make it reciprocal, and we'll make it balanced and even. But I gotta tip my hat to the Bama guy occasionally, right? We got you gotta leave the Bama people alone occasionally. But yeah, I tell people, once you start blowing up, the fake accounts start popping up, and that's the frustrating part is showing people that I love talking to people. And I believe in the good of humanity, and I believe in the old school handshake. Speaking of Alabama, the group Alabama, a man's good word and a handshake are all you need. And that's the generation I was born from. But unfortunately, we're in the land of copycats and things out there. So I do have my Rumble, my Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and my Telegram are all the same. They're Rattletrap1776, all lowercase, no underscores, no periods, no dots, no nothing. It's like t.me/Rattletrap1776. That's me. I do have a backup just in case. I never knew what could happen with Telegram. You never know. You never know when someone's going to go woke. So I did put a backup page. It is t.me/RattletrapNation on Telegram. I never post on there hardly ever. I forget to just hit the share button from my main. But then I have True Social, which is at Derek Johnson. I have Facebook's. They've been censoring me. Talking about censorship again. Facebook's come on me again. Like the 1776 Nation, my views and my shares aren't nowhere near what they were because it's not showing up in the feed. So when you go to like Facebook and you type in 1776 Nation, it don't even pull me up. It pulls up all the fake accounts. So you have to go to Rattletrap 1776 Nation, which I think they're starting to censor that. That's my backup Facebook. But if you pull up those in the search bar, you look down, you'll see where I posted. That's where you click on the actual page, and then you'll find it. But I always have to tell people it's 104,000 followers on 1776 Nation. And I think it's 36,000. That's how you differentiate, because the fake accounts, there's a fake account on Telegram that has 70,000 followers. 70,000 people were following this fake account. And I don't know what they're communicating. I don't know what they're saying behind, but I know that I've had a lady, God love the good people of the world that want to believe in good stuff, but I've had a lady contact my team, my management, y'all know my manager, and I've had a fella, $100,000 down the drain with one of them, and $25,000 because of a fake QFS bullcrap, something like that. And I know that some people say, I know you got the minds that'll say, well, people should know better by now. I get that. But when you're talking about generations that are the real true generations of the the believing in good people and wholesome and value and decency. And we are in a movement that's moving towards that. I mean, you gotta, that's what hurts me about it. And there's nothing they can do about it. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. There's nothing. So that's why it plagues me, and that's why I hate seeing it happen to other buddies, you know, especially when you get deleted too on top of that. So then you got to go back and show people that this is me. You got to go live again. This is me. Do whatever you got to do to prove it to them, and then try to grow that again. So it's amazing, you know. So all my link tree, I have a link tree. It's like link tree. The low, you know how you do it, link tree, and then a tr.ee/1776 nation. That has all my pages on it, everything. And then my websites, y'all been rolling it. I saw on the screen, DerrickJohnsonCountry.com, rattletrap1776.com, and then the documents.info. The other thing, if you can't afford a book, the documents.info or the Midnight Rider, it's the what I documented from 2017, 2018, 2019. It's not updated, but it's enough to get you started before you can get the book or something of that nature. So, you know, and then of course the new book is, there's no documents on that. It's just you know, I tell people if you want to know the secrets of country music, you can, but more than likely it's a niche market. Most people are not going to want to read that, but they should. But anyway, I think that's about it. I don't have an OnlyFans account. You know, so sorry.
Oh,
Yet.
There's always hope, and we like to end the show on hope, and so we want to bring in.
If I took my shirt off right now, I would blend in with my door and my fireplace thing right here. So I don't know, you know.
Oh God. Well, we want to bring in Kevin, our producer, for a couple of words if he'd like to join us. And thank you so much, Derrick, for the 2.5 hours. We really appreciate and value your time and commitment to sharing the truth.
Well, let me apologize to Kevin. Let me apologize to Kevin. What a way to bring him in on after I was talking about OnlyFans and me taking my shirt off. I don't know if he wants to come in. I don't know.
That's what reminded Joe about Kevin. Yeah.
We're not his OnlyFans. Go ahead, Kevin.